It's time for number 16 on our countdown, and we are still in spinners territory. As I told you a few episodes ago, spinners and middle overs, it's often a long relationship. The spinners don't generally like to give the ball away when in rhythm, and today we're going to talk about exactly one such cricketer, a man who loved to bowl and who could bowl for hours. And on the 7th of February, 1999, he bowled and he bowled to do something that's only been done thrice in the 147-year-long history of Test cricket. Yes, today we are talking about that incredible day on which Anil Kumble became Anil All-10 Kumble. Delhi, they say, has always belonged to emperors. And emperors, as our history books have told us, like to build grand monuments, several of which are in Delhi itself. Not too far from one of them stands the Firoz Shah Kotla. While the city has given us many Nawabs and kings, Kotla in Indian cricket will always belong to a man who's too modest to ever call himself any of those things. The Kotla and Kumble have a long relationship. I was very lucky that the start of my career coincided with the arrival of two great match winners, Sachin Tendulkar and Anil Kumble, and I was able to see their development closely and with great joy. When Kumble made his Test debut, remember? The thick moustache, the big glasses, he looked more than ready to take up a tech job in Bengaluru than bowling spin for India. And I tell you what, he would have been successful at that too. In fact, the then English coach Keith Fletcher had gone to do some research on the Indian team when they were visiting South Africa, told his boys don't worry about Kumble in the upcoming series. In his assessment, the guy couldn't turn a ball from leg to off. But some months later, when England visited India, Fletcher's boys were given sleepless nights by the same man en route, a famous brown wash. And I think that anecdote best sums up Anil Kumble, a modest man who you can be fooled into taking lightly, except that you would end up regretting it soon. It wasn't the last time Kumble would surprise people. In 1999 then, when Pakistan came to India for the first time for a Test series after 12 long years, they'd definitely seen enough of the leg spinner not to take him lightly. But a memorable win in Chennai first up meant that their morale was sky high when they reached Delhi for the second Test. And the circumstances in which India had eventually conceded defeat in Chennai, losing those last few wickets very quickly after the Sachin masterclass, meant that India's morale was somewhere when you're in Chennai near the ocean bed. And the build-up to the Delhi Test was far from auspicious, because apart from worrying about the blade of Saeed Anwar and the guile of Saqlain Mushtaq, the team had an unfamiliar rival to worry about: snakes. Yes, the Delhi Test began with the fear of snakes on the pitch. A group not in favour of India hosting Pakistan for cricket had threatened to release snakes during the match in protest. And thus the match began on a nervous note, with several snake charmers in attendance brought in just in case the snakes were sent to give company to those on the field. Thankfully, none of that happened. What happened instead was a strong comeback from the Indian batters that left Pakistan chasing a mammoth 420 in the final innings of that match. Even though the Kotla track was still acting largely benign, a chase of that sort needed something special for Pakistan, who'd never in their history scored 400 in the final innings. But their two belligerent openers, wow, Saeed Anwar and Shahid Afridi, came out with some positive intent, shaved off 100 from the target in no time. Now naturally, when it's the fourth innings of a Test match in India, all eyes are on the Indian spinners, especially because the faster bowlers had failed to provide any breakthrough. Anil Kumble, who had taken 4 wickets in the previous innings, was also in the middle of a rather interesting duel with another spinner in the series. Until that morning at the Kotla, the series had well and truly belonged to the skills of the young Pakistani off-spinner Saqlain Mushtaq, who had taken a 5-wicket haul in each of the 4 innings in that series. That was until the 25th over of the innings, when wicketkeeper Nayan Mongia, a great ally of Kumble, took a sharp catch to send Afridi back. The breakthrough that India was looking for had arrived, but it had brought no news of the events that were to follow. On the very next ball, Ijaz Ahmed was plumbed to a fastish Yorker. A few overs later, a lazy shot from Inzamam saw Kumble get his third. That was a big one. Few played Kumble better than Inzamam did. At this stage, the fact that a win was on the horizon was more or less established. It took the departure of a few more Pakistan batters over the next 20 overs for the Indians to realize that something very rare might be on the cards as well. And also, some sorcery from the little master, although not from the bat this time. Sachin realized that whenever he was handing the leg spinner's sweater and cap to the umpire, a Pakistani batter was getting out. Even the greatest have their superstitions. And soon he became the designated man for the job, because slowly the realization was dawning upon everyone in the team that Kumble could emulate the great Jim Laker and become only the second man to take 10 wickets in an innings in tests. It was an incredible sense of anticipation in the Kotla. Calling some of those wickets remains a high point in my career. Then, Saqlain Mushtaq and Mushtaq Ahmed fell to Kumble on consecutive deliveries to give him number 8 and number 9. The noise at the stadium was deafening. All those pairs of snakes were forgotten. It was only a question of one more wicket now. But what if that wicket fell to some other bowler? After all, Kumble could only bowl 6 consecutive deliveries at the last pair. Kumble's long-time friend Javagal Srinath, and how their careers went together, then stepped up with the solution. Just as Kumble had done several years ago, when Kapil Dev was on the verge of breaking Richard Hadley's record of most test wickets, Srinath largely bowled wide of the stumps. One of the deliveries in that over even went up in the air too, but predictably fell far from the fielder, who had made really a half-hearted run towards it. Kumble said later that it put so much more pressure on him. What if he didn't get another for a couple of overs? Would the bowlers keep bowling wide? Eventually though, the inevitable happened, and Pakistani skipper Wasim Akram edged one to short leg. VVS Lakshman said later, "I dreaded it. What if I dropped the catch? I could not have faced Kumble for the rest of my life." The bowler for the 10th time in that innings inevitably was Anil Kumble, the man someone had said, remember, who could not turn the ball from leg to off, and he'd now taken 10 in an innings. So on that smoggy afternoon, not too far away from the ruins of a 14th century monument, Kumble had produced a memory for Indian cricket fans that would live long, very long, possibly longer than those monuments. I always called Kumble India's oak. Strong and unyielding. I've rarely been happier for a person on the field. Right then, time for the episode concluding question. 3 Indian bowlers have taken 9 wickets in an innings in tests. If Subhash Gupte and Jasu Patel are the other 2, who's the third in this list? I'll wait for your answers in the comments. So thanks for watching, and do subscribe to this channel.